thought it would be routine. Two Allied carriers meeting at sea. A simple coordination exercise, a display of partnership and readiness. Out across the endless Pacific, the sky lay clear, the water calm as glass. Yet the stillness carried an edge, tension so sharp it felt almost tangible. From the east came the JS Kaga, reborn and resolute, sleek, silent. Her deck now hosted vertical landing F-35Bs, a quiet testament to Japan's disciplined naval awakening. Once a helicopter carrier built for relief and patrol, she now embodied precision and purpose, the spear point of a new maritime era. To the west, a U.S. Navy supercarrier held station. Destroyers guarded her flanks, decks alive with motion, catapults hissing, launch crews chanting in rhythm, radar scopes flickering with traces of distant movement. Two behemoths, two flags, meeting not to test power, but to measure trust, coordination, and resolve. Then came the moment no one expected. As an American F-35B lined up for approach, a flag rose atop Kaga's mast, not a signal of warning or formality, but an unspoken salute. Respect. For a heartbeat, her crew froze, uncertain, then understanding. Eyes met, heads nodded. Across languages, the meaning was shared. Two ships, two nations, one unspoken message, capability. This was no rehearsal, no ceremonial flight. This was a page of history being written in real time. The American jet descended onto Japanese steel, and for an instant, every barrier of doctrine, culture, and command structure dissolved into shared precision. Because this was never just about a landing. It was a proof of concept, of unity in motion. What happens when Japan and the United States do more than cooperation? When they operate as one. The F-35B settled with surgical grace, a soft thud against the deck, one landing carrying weight far beyond its noise. It was not merely a triumph of technology, but a signal to the Pacific. A revitalized naval power had entered the stage. The JS Kaga, once a helicopter destroyer, was now something more. Once tasked with rescue and patrol, she had become a launch platform for stealth aircraft that could merge seamlessly into U.S. operations. For decades, Japan's constitution restrained her reach. Carriers forbidden, offense avoided. But the region had changed. China's expanding navy, North Korea's volatility, and the tension around Taiwan demanded a recalibration. So Japan adapted. Kaga's deck was strengthened with heat-resistant coatings for vertical landings, her bow reshaped for better handling, her communication systems upgraded to U.S. Navy standards. And at last, she was ready. F-35B ready, able to host jets that hover, pivot, and land with uncanny precision, while linking flawlessly with Allied networks. This was not theater, not a display, it was operational proof, a carrier reborn to fight beside America's fleet as an equal. The landing itself wasn't staged. It was a real U.S. Marine pilot performing a live operation on Japan's first fixed-wing carrier in more than 70 years. Both crews felt the gravity. In that moment, Kaga crossed from support vessel to strike platform, subtly but decisively shifting the balance of power in the Western Pacific. One aircraft, one descent, one shared acknowledgement across the sea. To outsiders, it might have looked routine. To those who grasped its meaning, it was seismic. Because this moment was larger than any single jet, it symbolized a decision. Japan and the United States would no longer move in parallel. They would maneuver as one. In synchronized formation, shared data, unified doctrine, they sent a signal the world could not ignore. No treaty required it. No crisis demanded it. It was an act of choice, of trust and readiness. And somewhere high above, satellites recorded the sight. Two carriers, one Japanese, one American, sailing in harmony. Not as rivals, not as symbols, but as partners prepared for what may come. In that quiet exchange, history turned. Japan's role in the Pacific had changed, not in words but in action, and the world, watching closely, understood. Because this was about more than a single jet. It was about a decision, a shared understanding between two nations. Japan and the United States could either move in perfect alignment or continue as parallel powers, strong but separate. By sailing in formation, synchronizing radar networks, and executing joint flight operations,
both navies delivered a message that required no translation. They were ready. No alliance clause required it. No crisis forced it. This was a deliberate signal of confidence, a demonstration of what mutual trust, discipline, and interoperability truly look like at sea. And make no mistake, someone was watching. From orbit, Chinese satellites captured every frame. 2 carriers, side by side, sailing in coordinated rhythm. It wasn't an accident or a ceremonial show. A reborn Japanese carrier capable of launching US standard stealth fighters operating alongside an American supercarrier. It was a warning written in steel and silence. That single event reshaped the rules of engagement, cooperation, and strategic deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. For the first time in decades, Japan's Navy was no longer symbolic. It was operational, capable, confident, and integrated. And the US Navy wasn't simply a partner, it was a peer in perfect coordination. This wasn't history revisited, it was history unfolding. Live in salt air and jet exhaust. In these waters, raw power alone doesn't decide outcomes. Coordination does. It's not about who commands the biggest vessel, who fires the loudest missile, or who fields the most aircraft. It's about who can act as one when the stakes demand it. And on this day, the answer was undeniable. Aboard Kaga, the deck crew worked with surgical precision. Every motion deliberate, every shout measured. The choreography of flight operations was flawless, rehearsed endlessly but executed here in perfect sync under real-world conditions. Across the horizon, the US carrier's deck thrummed with its own rhythm. Faster, more instinctive, guided by practiced intuition rather than rigidity. 2 distinct styles, 2 traditions, and yet when woven together, they moved as one. Naval aviation doesn't care for sentiment or formality. It honors only execution, the kind displayed that day. Above, the formation paths unfolded. 2 US F-35Bs and 2 Japanese F-35Bs cutting across the sky in a diamond sweep. Cameras captured the moment, but no image could convey its weight. The decks below fell silent, the crew standing still, watching as 4 jets carved a message across the heavens: unity in motion, precision as deterrence. Then came the ultimate test: cross-deck operations. A Japanese pilot, guided by an American landing signal officer, brought his F-35B down on the US carrier. Textbook perfect, snagging the wire with precision. Minutes later, a US Marine pilot repeated the feat aboard Kaga. Another flawless landing, another moment of proof. Because this wasn't about flight tests or photo opportunities, it was about validation that 2 distinct fleets, bound by shared purpose, could execute as one. Different languages, different procedures, one synchronized force. And in that coordination, that fusion of doctrine and discipline, the Pacific saw something new take shape. Not 2 navies cooperating, but one alliance operating.
And all of this was unfolding in one of the world's most contested arenas, the Philippine Sea. Well within the gaze of Chinese surveillance satellites, and just days after Beijing's carrier group had conducted maneuvers near Taiwan. Coincidence? Hardly. This was strategic choreography. The US, Japan, and even a French carrier group positioned farther south were executing synchronized movement. A real-world rehearsal for the scenario everyone thinks about, but no one dares to say aloud. A rapid, unified response if Taiwan ever faced crisis. During one sortie, radar screens picked up a Chinese reconnaissance drone hovering at the edge of international airspace. No violation, no intrusion. But the reaction was immediate. 2 American F-A-18s vectored toward it, shadowed by a Japanese F-35. Message received. We see you. On deck, tempo surged. Refueling teams doubled their pace, ordnance handlers verified every connection, and maintenance crews worked with surgical focus. Every sailor moved with quiet urgency. As night fell, the 2 carriers came alive and light. Runway beams sliced across the Black Sea, and afterburners painted the horizon in blue fire. This wasn't chaos, it was controlled precision, a deadly ballet of power and purpose. This wasn't symbolic, it was doctrinal evolution, shifting from reactive postures to active readiness. What unfolded wasn't theater, it was testimony. Trust and interoperability, once theoretical, were now visible in motion. American and Japanese command systems had to sync perfectly. Radar sweeps, flight vectors, deck signals all needed to align. Crews spoke different tongues, but the language of action was universal. Onboard Kaga, the deck ran like precision clockwork. Orders were crisp, movements efficient, every gesture exact. On the US carrier, instructions flowed freely through open comms, dynamic and fast. Two distinct cultures, two distinct styles, yet above them the same outcome. F-35Bs from both nations sliced to the twilight in seamless formations, performing synchronized cross-deck maneuvers that made it seem as though they'd trained together for generations. Even when missteps occurred, a Japanese pilot cleared for takeoff moments too soon, or a short delay on Kaga's forward elevator. None of it unraveled operations. Instead, they became live exercises in trust and correction. Training and discipline converted what could have been mistakes into displays of adaptability. Each fix was immediate, instinctive, a testament to professionalism on both sides. All of it unfolded beneath the quiet gaze of an unseen observer, Beijing. Chinese satellites tracked every movement as the US and Japanese carriers executed perfectly timed maneuvers across the Pacific. To the PLA Navy, this was more than two ships. It was proof that Japan's reborn carrier fleet could now integrate seamlessly with American naval power, a force multiplier in every sense. A single US supercarrier already dominates the sea, but add Kaga, fully refitted to launch F-35Bs, and the balance shifts entirely. Radar networks overlap, ISR data merges, patrols and strike formations synchronize. Together, they form a unified, multi-domain shield stretching hundreds of miles. This isn't just combined power, it's synergy, precision, and partnership operating as one. In modern warfare, command of the skies defines command of the seas. The Indo-Pacific is ruled by distance, speed, and coordination. One carrier can project influence, but two, operating in perfect unison, redefine deterrence itself. For the first time, Japan's reach now extends far beyond its shores, backed by US expertise and shared doctrine. The timing was deliberate. Tensions in the Taiwan Strait were climbing. North Korea continued testing missiles. Chinese militias flooded Philippine waters. The Pacific was heating fast. In this environment, the two carriers' coordination wasn't ceremonial. It was a calculated message. The Allies were ready, not reactive. The era of waiting to respond was over. But this wasn't just about power. It was about technology, trust, and timing. American and Japanese pilots operated across each other's decks, exchanging flight data and executing joint missions in real time. Systems spoke the same digital language. Each flight built confidence, ensuring that when a real crisis came, action would replace hesitation. Across the region, allies were watching. For Australia, South Korea, and the Philippines, this moment set a new precedent. If Japan and the US could operate two carriers as one, then an entire Indo-Pacific strike network could soon be a reality. Two nations, two carriers, one rhythm. The US didn't lead, and Japan didn't follow. They operated side by side, synchronized in command and execution. Every launch cycle, radar pulse, and flight path was harmonized. The old barriers of language and doctrine faded, replaced by efficiency and trust. Cross-deck landings sealed that integration. Japanese pilots touched down on US decks with flawless precision. American Marines landed on Kaga as if it were their own. Each maneuver silenced doubt. Two independent navies could train apart, yet perform as one under real pressure. Small hiccups, like a delayed elevator or mistimed signal, became tests of adaptability, resolved instantly through shared instinct. Strategically, the implications were immense.
A U.S. supercarrier alone is a statement. Combined with Kaga, it becomes a network. Overlapping radar, mutual defense, and extended strike range turn two ships into a regional deterrent. For any adversary, it's no longer one carrier group to track. It's a synchronized alliance capable of rapid response. The message was unmistakable. Two carriers sailing in formation, deck crews moving in mirrored patterns, F-35s carving precision arcs above a glassy sea, calm skies above, lethal coordination below. Every observer, friend or foe, understood what they were seeing. Readiness in motion. Japan is no longer confined to coastal defense. It's projecting power with the world's strongest navy, anchored in shared technology, tactics, and trust. Together, they've set a new benchmark, a doctrine that lives, breathes, and maneuvers across the ocean. And one question now lingers across every Pacific horizon. If a US-Japan carrier group sails near Taiwan during a crisis, will it prevent escalation or define it? No one knows, but one thing is certain. Two carriers, one alliance, and unparalleled readiness now define the Indo-Pacific.